Millions of parents are struggling to connect with their kids. In this video, I'm going to show you a simple way that you can start connecting with your children today and create a stronger bond that will last a lifetime. Hey there, my name is Dr. Todd, and I'm here to talk to you about something that's really important. Parents all over the world are struggling to connect with their kids and build strong relationships. But don't worry, I'm going to show you a simple way that you can start connecting with your children today and create a lasting bond. Sometimes we connect best with our children by meeting them where they are, and this means we might have to get creative. Let me tell you a story about a boy I'll call Bobby. When I was a new therapist, my first job was in an outpatient clinic that was part of a hospital. It was a wonderful job because it allowed me to see a lot of different kids and gave me a ton of experience. And my interest was always in working with young people. But I'll tell you that therapy with kids is much more challenging than it is when you're doing it with like a motivated adult who wants to be there in the first place. Many times it would be a situation where a teenager was brought into my office and they were unwilling or just maybe a partially willing captive. And a lot of times parents were forcing their kids to come see me, hoping that I could somehow help them. Well, you usually can't just sit down with the kids and start doing talk therapy with them. They don't know me, and it'll feel awkward for me to be answering my questions. No kid really wants to sit there for an hour being forced to talk. So I actually learned early on that I had to find creative ways of developing a relationship, a connection, and then we could talk about why they were there. But you had to do that first. You had to connect first. Well, one day I saw a new client. This was a mom who wanted me to see her son. So she came to the first session because she wanted to give me the backstory. Her son, we're going to call him Bobby. He was going to come see me whether he liked it or not. I was not his first therapist, however. In fact, she told me that she'd already been to over a dozen psychiatrists and therapists, none of whom he would even speak to. He would not even utter a word to them. She told me they felt like they'd tried everything imaginable, and now they're seeing me out of pure desperation. So I'm up for a treat. Next week, I'm going to see this boy, and the bar for success is very low because all I had to do is get him to grunt or speak a word, and then I've made progress. But what I didn't know ahead of time was that Bobby had a medical condition that required him to be in a wheelchair full time. So I met Bobby the first time as his mom wheeled him into my office. His head was down, he was facing the floor, and she pushed him right up into my chair, said good luck, and then turned around and walked out. And so there sat Bobby. His head was literally slumped, staring straight at the floor, hair sticking up, and he's living up to the promise that I was not going to be the first psychologist he spoke with. Well, over the next 2 sessions, I tried everything I could think of with Bobby. All of my questions went unanswered. I tried magic tricks, he ignored them. I played around with riddles. They did not get solved. I offered to play cards, to play pool, to take him out to the duck pond. Nothing. No response. And it didn't take long before I realized that I was out of tricks. So before our 3rd session began, I had already planned on telling Bobby's mom that she could just add me to her list of therapy disappointments. That I was going to tell her I'd done everything I can, and now you're wasting your time and money bringing him to see me. And I'm sure Bobby would have agreed. But this is where it kind of gets interesting. And I think it's because I had already given up. I knew there was no chance of connecting with this kid. I just somehow decided that I was going to meet Bobby where he was, literally. Meaning I was going to physically meet him where he was. I didn't really think about this ahead of time. It's something that kind of spontaneously came to me. And so when Bobby came in for his first appointment, he rolled into my office, I just laid down on the floor. And I literally laid underneath his head, and I looked up into his face, and there he is. And he's now in this dilemma because there's Bobby with his head facing the floor, and he can't move his head because that would prove he would be able to move his head, right? So I'm laying up on the floor looking at him, and he now had to look at me. He couldn't look away. And so there we are, sort of staring at each other. First time I'd ever actually seen his face. And this is when Bobby uttered his first words with the smirk on his face. What the hell are you doing? He could not believe here I am, a professional, laying on the ground, looking up at him. He did not think this is how, psychologists acted. And my response to what I was doing was that I was bored and that I found it much more comfortable laying down than staring at the top of his head. And this is when we get that first smile or smirk. And our next 10 therapy sessions were done in this format. Bobby would roll into my office, I'd lie down on the floor under his face, and we'd talk for an hour. I actually looked forward to these, not just because it was comfortable laying on the floor, and it was, but I actually found a way to get this boy to engage with me. First, my first point, nothing works without a relationship existing in the first place. If you want to connect with your kids, you have to find a way to have a relationship with them. You have to have an emotional connection with them. Point number 2, sometimes we have to get creative. We have to meet them where they are. With Bobby, that meant laying on the floor. It might mean doing other things that you don't necessarily enjoy, but you do them purely so that you can connect with your kid. Before I go on to this next tip, I would like you to click the link below and subscribe to my channel. And I would really love it if you would make some comments and share how you have been creative in finding ways of connecting with your kids. My next tip for you is to focus on creating small moments of connection. Sometimes we think we have to do big things. Let me give you a few creative ideas for connection. Number 1, I'm just making this up. You see your daughter after getting home from work and you say, "Hey, I heard you did well in your test today. I'm so proud of how hard you work." Or you look your daughter directly in her eyes and you ask her how her day went. If she gives you the standard one-word response that her day was fine, you can just smile warmly and say, "Great, honey." If she tells you more about her day by using more than one word, then you can count that as gold and just give her 100% of your attention, as if this is the most important thing you've heard all day. Another suggestion for a small moment of connection, you go into your son's room at night and you just tell him you love him. And while you're there, you ask him if you can make him something to eat for breakfast the next morning. One little connection can lead to another. Another idea is you can leave a sticky note on your daughter's mirror in the morning, which just says, "World's greatest daughter, I love you." You can fill the gas tank of your son's car and leave a note on the car seat which says, "Here's a tank of gas on me. Thanks for being the best kid a dad could ever want." You could send a text message to your daughter, maybe one who you've been having a lot of conflict lately. And the text could say something like, "Hey, I know we've been fighting a lot. I hate fighting with you. I want you to know that no matter what, I always love you." Just create small moments of connection and do it frequently. The more you do it, the better. Listening, expressing feelings, giving small gifts, hugs, literally anything with the intent to express love and connect will work. Hey, if you've really been struggling with connecting with your kids, start with these points, but I have more for you. I've put a link in the description down below to a free 4-part presentation that will show you how to connect with your kids. So grab a pen, paper, and click the link below, and I'll see you there. The more you try to control somebody, the less control you have. The less you try to control somebody, the more influence you're likely to have. When you feel like you've tried everything and you still feel disconnected from your child, get creative, meet them where they are, engage in their interests. You'll be surprised how this changes things for your relationship.